Alright guys, welcome back. So now in this video I want to start drafting, but before we start drafting it's very important to note some tools which we might be using in this drafting stage. And then of course we have your scissors, and then you're going to have your ruler, right? Make sure you have a long rule this way. Then this is called hip curve, right? It's called hip curve. Now, this hip curve will be used in our curvy lines connections. And then this is called the pattern master. So you can check this out in any outlet that sells sewing accessories or book accessory, a bookshop. I think either of these two places will have this. Now, of course, you have your tape now, normal now, as a tailor. So now this hip curve and this pattern master are very much important in our drafting stage proper, right? Because we are going to make use of it in the lines connections to have a smooth and perfect connections. So now, having said that, now this is the style we are going to make. This is the first style we are going to make in this training, right? This is just a normal long sleeve senator with a front facing and a flap, and of course it has a back facing as well. So this is what my customer requested I do for him. So I will guide us on how to go about this in the cutting and in the every stage of it, gumming, sewing and finishing, right? Now also it's important as well we note our measurement. So the measurement of my customer for his chest is at 50, shoulder is 20. Now sleeve length, okay, I mentioned him 3/4 sleeve and short sleeve, but I think I will do long sleeve for him. I will have to get his long sleeve measurements. Now round sleeves are 17, 16, 15, and of course when I get the sleeve length I will now get the fist measurement. Now the neck is 19, then top length is 34 and 38. I think he requested for a long top, so we are going to make use of long top. Now his waist is 42 and the hips is 42. Now laps is 30, knee is 20, ankle is 15 and a half, then total length is 39 and a half. Now these measurements are what I took from his body. So I will go in line and make the drafting. I'll also show us how to start about it. All right, so now the first thing to note here is that when you want to start cutting, it is advisable you start from trouser, right? Now, it is also very important to know that 1 yard means 36 inches. In case some of us are not aware, 1 yard means 36 inches. So if you want to measure 1 yard, you have to measure 36 inches from the material. Then one trouser length means 45 inches, right? 45 inches means one trouser length, whereas 1 yard means 36 inches. So difference of 9 inches or thereabout. So now, it is also very important for us to know that this fabric, they have the one they call by 60 and by 45, right? 45 is mostly Ankara or all these sample materials in the market. Now, the reason I'm trying to tell us all of this for us to understand in case we don't know, so we have to be well informed, because I don't like teaching halfway. I like to exhaust all the knowledge I have in that particular project I have. So now for the cutting, I got this 4.5 yards for him. Now reasons being that because of the nature of his size and the measurements I have, that is why I took it to be 4.5 yards. So now to start the drafting, we are going to start from the trouser first, right? The reason for this is because in case the material finished on the way, we can now do combination for the top side. But if you don't do it this way, it will now result to going to buy more materials. So there is a way you might be sewing and cutting, and then you have finished drafting the front panel, back panel, and the fabric wasn't enough or the sleeve wasn't enough. You can now find something similar, something fashionable to attach. So start from the trouser, because trousers are not meant to be joined or combined. It's meant to be sewn that way. Now we are starting from the trouser. So from the hip measurement of my client, let me see if it will enter him. Hips of 50, hips of 52, sorry, hips of 52. I think by 4 is 13, right? Yeah, 13. is 52. So I will have to fold this prop. So that's why I'm leaving this video for you to see how I am folding. How I am folding is very important. So I have it to be 13 here. 13, it's okay. Extra 2 inches, that's 15. I'm considering if it will enter the back. All right, I think it will. Let us fold first and then cross check. So in folding this, you have to make sure is what you want that you are folding, right? Don't just fold however. So you must have a direction of your folding, and the direction must come from where you have your trouser length and your hip. So this is the two guidelines to get a perfect folding on your trouser, your hips in particular, right? Your hip measurement in particular. So you carefully fold this, gently fold this, don't be in a haste. I'm trying to make it to be visible for us to see from the other angle. So gently arrange this properly. Okay, let me use my stool and hang the fabric here so that it doesn't drag the material down. Yes, it's okay now. So you gently fold all of this and make sure none is rumpled, right? Make sure none is rumpled. It must be relaxed. It must be what? Relaxed. It must be relaxed. It must be relaxed. It must be relaxed. Now, having seen this, now the next to do now is to mark out your baselines. As you can see how I folded my fabric, right? So everything must be even. Must be even. So it must be even, right? So let us now arrange this properly. So as you can see, the underneath here is not even. So I need to, mark out a baseline here. I will mark out a baseline here. I will mark out a baseline here. So this line must be straight enough. It must be straight enough. So I have marked it out. Look at how I marked it out. So I will also mark out the sidelines. I will also do what? Mark out the sidelines. I will mark out the sidelines this way. I will mark out the sidelines this way. I will mark out the sidelines this way. I will marking out the sidelines this way. Right? So the lines has been properly marked out now. So before you start marking cutting anything, you must make sure you take your time and mark it out in this form in order for you to have a perfect result. Now, because of the fact that the major thing we need to note here is our fitting. So I will cut this trouser in one particular format, which is one of the methods we are going to learn in this tutorial. But subsequently, I will also introduce to us another method of drafting a trouser for us to also learn and also have 2 or 3 different methods of drafting. So whichever one we can now find conducive and convenient, we can now adhere to it in our subsequent sewing, right? So usually you are going to mark out 2 inches here for your ankle measurement, right? For your ankle folding or your hemming, right? For your ankle folding or hemming. So you mark out 2 inches here. Then you also draft the line in this form. So you also draft the line in this form. Then after that, the next to do here is to apply my customer's trouser length. So if you remember, when we are talking about our crouch derivation, we stated that once the length of trouser is up to 39 inches, you don't need to deduct anything from the flap, right? From the crouch. So our hip is 52. So you have to divide 52 by 4. So in most cases, you need to use your calculator so that you don't assume what is wrong. So 52 by 4 gave us 13. So what I will do now, I will just mark 13 inches for his crouch when I'm marking the crouch, right? But before that, let us get the trouser length, which is 39 and half, right? 39 and half for his trouser length, 39.5 here, right? So now, most people will ask me, why don't I deduct the band from the trouser length measurement? Won't the band increase the length of the trouser? The answer is no, right? Now, see the reason the band cannot increase it, because you are meant to slope your trouser by half an inch, and you also meant to attach the band by half an inch as well. So at the end of the day, the band is coming back to replace this slanting of half an inch and the sewing allowance of half an inch, making it to be total of 1 inch. So the band is always 1.3 or 1.2. So it's coming back to replace the slanting and the stitching allowance. So that's the reason I don't deduct half an inch or 1 inch from my trouser length. I use the whole length that way. Later on, I fold. Even if there is a little increment, it should not be up to 1 inch or 1.5 extra. It's better longer than short, right? So let's proceed. So having done that, and I said that we are going to mark 13 inches for our crouch, which was gotten from the customer's hips over 4. Hips was 52 over 4, 13 inches. So if this trouser length was like 38, I would have deducted or minus half an inch from 13, which is now 12.5, right? So to give it that fitting effect. So since his length is length is up to 39 and a half, so I won't need to minus anything. Any length for adults that is up to 39 inches and above, you don't need to minus any half from the answer of 2 over 4. But if it was 38 and a half, 37, 36, you minus for all adults. But for children, you don't need to deduct anything. You have to use the hip that way and apply, irrespective of the person's length or not. So now, here you are going to mark 13 inches, right? 13 inches for your customer's crouch depth. This is very important. Please note how to do this, right? 13 inches for your customer's crouch depth. So now we are joining, we are connecting. So we have gotten our crouch depth. This is where the crouch fell. So the next to do now is to, meanwhile, I told us that we are going to use different methods of trouser drafting. So for this method, I am going to use the simple line method. The simple line method is just a method where you don't need to do your plenty drawings, just your crouch and your ankle, and you are done drafting. So in this whole drafting, I am going to make use of only the waist, the hip, the ankle, and the trouser length. I will not make use of the knee and the laps, which I will also show you why, and cross-check for us to understand why I am not making use of those particular areas. So now, I will have to come to the ankle here, come in by 1.5 or 2 for my shaping, right? For my shaping. So let's take 2 for my shaping, right? Let's take 2 because of the hip of the client is big enough. So let's take 2 inches. Now, I will take this line up a bit. I will take this 2 inches line this way up a bit, and then I will slope this line to come from here and then connect to this line this way. So with the help of my hip cuff, I will now blend this very well. I will now blend here very well and make sure it's properly synchronized, right? So after this, you now apply 13 inches, which is now your real hip measurement. 13 inches this way, and then extra 2 here, extra 2 inches here, right? So after that, the ankle we have, so the ankle we have here is an ankle of 15 and a half. So in such situations, I make 18 just to make it easier for division. So 8 inches. So I will mark 8 inches here. I'll mark 8 inches here, and then I will also take the line to come up a bit. I'll also take the line to come up a bit. Now the distance of this line can be 7 to 10 inches long from the 2 inches ankle here, right? Then after that, I will now use my hip curve. In most cases, the hip curve is not meant to be placed at the edge that has the much curve. Place it a bit off from here so that the curve does not really go in to encroach on the lap. Then you point the mouth of this curve towards the line that came up here, and then hold firmly this way, and then you connect. Be careful while doing this. You connect. Make sure it's flushing or it's connecting properly, right? It must connect properly. So you must make sure it's connecting properly this way. So the line, we have connected the line very well. So the next we are going to do here now is to divide the waist again. So the waist is 42 divided by 4 is 10.5. So from here you mark 10.5 and then add extra 1 inch to it, right? Very important, 1 inch to it. And then you connect the 1 inch to the real hip measurement. Connect the 1 inch allowance you added to the real hip measurement this way, and then you come up here by 2 inches for the actual hip point, because the hip is located 2 inches above the crotch. So normally this line could have gone all through this way, but since there's no need or no function here, I will just end it on this line that connected the waist extra allowance to the hip measurement. So this is here the line will end. Then you place your tape in a diagonal form, in this form, right? And then mark half an inch here, 0.5 inch there. And then with the help of your hip curve, you connect it this way, hold it firmly this way, and then you connect from here. Make sure you have a perfect connection that will go from this point to this very point. So this is how it is. Then after this, the next to do is to slope the trouser by half an inch. That's 0.5 sloping. Now this sloping is not really meant to reach the end, because the funny board started from somewhere at the side of the front panel. So you need to just, let's just say, middle of this panel or a bit inner or inside. Then use your hip curve, connect it this way, half an inch down, then slope it to this form. So this will help you, the trouser, to stick properly on your customer's body. So after this now, the next to do is to mark your pocket point, which is 7 inches deep. But for him, I will use 7.5 because of his nature, of his size. We dip this way, and then 2.5 inches inner for the up pocket area. So this is basically how to draft a simple line method of trouser. Let me take the video closer for us to have a closer look of how this method looks like. So now, having seen the connections, the lines are just simple as that. That is why it's called the simple line method. Look at the waistline. It came somewhere above the middle. The sloping ended somewhere there. So this is how you draft the simple line method of our trouser. So the next you will see now will also be the cutting stage. I'll also show us how to cut. And then before we go to the cutting stage properly, let us now cross check if the laps is inside these measurements, right? Now, our lap measurement we have is a lap of 30. Now, if you remember, the lap is over 2, that's divided by 2. So 30 over 2 is 15. So let's now check if 15 is inside this. That's the reason, or one of the methods to use to cross-check your measurements and your drafting if they are correlating. So 15 is what we got for the lap. So we place 15 inches here, and then it is inside the line. It is inside. So if it has spilled over, you have to either increase the hip or cross-check your measurement of the lap if it's correct. So since 15 is inside, that means it's very much okay. Don't forget that the back will also be bigger here by 2 inches. So that means you have enough allowance for your closing of the back panel. So now for the knee, let's check the knee. Now the knee we have here is a knee of 20. Now, for us to know the actual point of our knee, what you need to do is to measure from the crotch depth this way to the ankle line, which is now 26 and a half, divide by 2. You have it to be 13.25, right? Then come up by 3. So you have it to be 10.25. So this is where 10.25 mark, that is the knee position. Let's now check if this point has our knee covered. So the knee we have is 20. 20 over 2 is 10. So let's check for 10. So 10 is inside. As you can see, my measurements are correct and my drafting is also correct. So let us now go down to the cutting proper. So in cutting, you must make sure you pick up the lines, the ones you marked lastly for your cuttings, and then cut off accordingly. Please don't cut and spill over. Cut and stop at that point your chalking ended, so that you don't damage the fabric that could have been used for something meaningful in your subsequent component drafting, right? So just carefully cut this. Make sure here gives you a perfect curve. Don't make it an L-shaped form. It must be in a curvy position. So for the pocket area, you can notch here to go in by half an inch this way, and then you cut from this angle. You cut from this angle. You cut from this angle, right? So now, when you get to this stage, you are having a perfect drafting and cutting result. So I pray most of us will be able to reach this point without much problem. So let us now draft the back. So the back doesn't have much work. The back just has little additions and little differences, right? So this is how the front panel is or will be drafted perfectly. So after this, all you need to do now is to mark the front this way, that the back of the panel, that is the back, because the two fronts are mirroring each other, right? The shiny part is the front, which I should have said at the beginning of the video, to make sure you cut from the front from the back of the cloth, right? So which is normal thing to do. So let us now draw the fabric for us to draft the back panel. So after this, you have to drag the fabric this way, and then you are meant to, this trouser came out from this direction, right? So you are meant to turn it the other way around this way. You are meant to turn it the other way around. So this is going to enable you have the bigger area to the hip and the smaller area to the ankle. That is just the reason for doing this. But please make sure before you do this, make sure that your trouser does not have any prints or image that is facing upright. So this is how you cut the back panel. All you need to do now is to extend the hip line, and then extend your hip line, and then you extend this crotch line, extend the crotch line, and then you apply 2 inches all through, 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches. You can apply 1.5 at on the west region, 1.5, but 2 inches is also very much okay. So now the back will be raised by 2 inches as well. So make sure that the under material is enough. Then raise here 2 inches from the slope line, 2 inches as well. Confirm if it's okay. Then you also add the 2 inches all along the curvy area. Add as many as you want. 3 or 4 lines will be very much okay. Then after that, join them in twos. Join the one here with the one here first. Join the third one to the second one. Join this to this, and also join this to this. Then after this, the next to do is to make sure that this back raising is in a curvy form this way. Make sure it's slopy, right? It's slopy this way. It helps to make your belt to sit properly also at the back. Then you now connect this one, this way, and then with your free hand curve or your help of your hip curve and pattern master, you now flush it as well. So this just make sure that here is properly curved, right? So make sure that the curve here is not, the budge here is not much. It should not be too much here. So you now cut as well. So this is how to draft the back panel of a simple line trouser, right? So let us cut from here. So we are going to start cutting from the waist point this way. So this is how you go about it. So please make sure you are careful when drafting this, right? Don't make any mistakes. Add the allowances needed. There's no need for I made a mistake. It will not work. I made a mistake will not work, right? It will not work at all. It will not work. So keep the components of these trousers, keep them properly, and then you draft out this in a form that it will not don't shift the material when you are drafting. Make sure you cut it out gently. Cut it out gently. Make sure the main material did not shift from the base or position. Then also cut here equally. Make sure it's properly cut this way. Then bring out this shape coming out here. Bring it out. We need it. I'll show you guys where we need it from. So now the next to do is to cut this other side as well. Cut this other side as well. Cut here as well. So you also carefully cut this area as well. So this is how to cut both the front and the back panel. So you also don't forget to drop chalk this way to differentiate the front and the back. So this is for the front and back panel. I will show you guys the other components as well. Alright, so now let us cut the components. Remember the components we wrote on the board. So this is the time we now bring them out, and for you as well to learn the measurement, right? Now, if your trouser was cut properly, you are meant to see such shapes. These two shapes must come out. Now, the bigger one is for the pocket facing, and this one is for the flap or the zip fly. So now, let's start from the pocket facing. Now, remember that the pocket was notched 2.5 inches width and then 7.5 inches deep for the trouser panel. Now, for you to have a perfect pocket facing, the width you should have here should be 4 inches. 4 inches width by the length of 10 and a half, right? Length of 10 and a half is ideal, right? So 4 inches width by 10.5 for your pocket facings. Now this measurement will be used for all adults wear, all adults clothes. On kids, I will show you that when we get to that kids tutorial, right? So this is for the pocket facing. So it must be big as this, 4 inches width by 10.5 inches deep. So after this, now the next thing to do is to cut the zip flap. So the zip flap is 3 inches width. 3 inches width is what we call the zip fly or the flap. 3 inches width by the length of 9 inches or 10. So let's use 10 inches, right? So cut it this way. 3 inches width by length of 9 or 10. So this is how you cut your zip flap this way. So mark as well. So the next we are going to cut now will be our band. That's the band for the trouser, right? The band for the trouser. So you have to bring your fabric this way. You make sure is properly folded. Make sure it's properly folded in this form. And then the next to do is to mark out your baselines, and then 2.5 inches is what you are going to use width. 2.5 inches. Now the length will be the length of your customer's waist circumference plus extra 7 inches. Remember our length, our waist was 42 waist. So divide by 2, you have it to be 21, then plus extra 7 inches. Is very much okay for us. It's on fold, right? It's on fold. So you cut it this way. Now for the band. So the measurement of the band remains 2.5 inches for all adults. Then for the length, you have to use the person's waist divided by 2 plus extra 7 inches. In most cases, you can make it to be longer in order for it to enter properly, right? So you have to be very calculative. Then you can now slash or open here, but I will leave it up after gumming. I will now cut it. It's better for me to gum at once than gumming them individually. So now after this, now the next we are going to cut now will be our belt loop or belt holder. You see the reason I had to list out all of the requirements we need on our board before we get to the cutting stage, so that when I start calling these terms, you will not be confused on what am I cutting. So belt loop measurement is 1.5 inches width, 1.5 inches width, but the length of 24, because 4 loops makes 4 inches makes one loop, and there are 6 loops on a trouser. That's a 24 inches loop, right? So you now have to connect accordingly this way. So the next to do is to cut the loop, but because it's in twos, I will just cut one layer, or let me just cut the 2. I will discard the other one so I can have a smooth edge here. Let me just cut it since it's small. So just cut it out this way. You can cut more than 24 actually, so that you have extra for your other accessories you might sew. So this is for my loop, right? So you keep it aside. Now the next to cut now is my welt pocket placket, so which you have to fold in this form, this way, fold in this form, and then the measurement we have here is 3 inches width, 3 inches width for our welt pocket placket, by the length of 7.5 or 8, right? So it depends on the customer size. So let's make this one 8, so that we will cut it off when sewing. But the normal measurement is 3 inches width by length of 7.5 or 7, sometimes 7 for smaller sizes. So, but just know the range. Width is 3, length is 7, right? Or rather, length is 7, width is 3. So you cut it this way. And there must be 4 in number. That's 2 pairs. Because 2 of these makes one wet pocket, and these 2 makes the other one. Now there are 2 back pockets on a male trouser. They mark the front, mark the back rather, mark the back, and also differentiate the back as well. So this is for this. Now, invariably, we are done cutting the trouser. So the next thing that we're gonna cut now will be the pocketing, and which we are going to use the lining to cut it. So these are the components of our trouser. Thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you in my next video, and please make sure you practicalize your own and send me your questions in the discussion group if there is any question. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video.